Okay, so the topic for the week. This one's kind of one we've skirted around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Basically kind of avoided talking about, but now here we are at the conclusion, and no matter what, we either get a royal douchebag or a turd sandwich.
Fuck them all to death.
Mark, politics 2016, Trump, Clinton, or one of these third-party candidates.
Jill Stein and for what the other guy's name is, Gary Johnson.
Let's kick it off right on that. Where are your thoughts on will your vote... Okay, so your vote counts, obviously, if you vote for another party. Will it matter? What's your opinion? And I do want to be clear. All right, so let's do a proper intro. Welcome back to episode 19. I'm Scott, and that one's Mark here on Ramble Entertainment. We're talking about politics, and this is a show... Great Scott Marcus, where we have conversations just between me and Mark, where we share our opinions with the internet. God only knows why we chose to do that. So, Mark,
because we had witty banter one time and said we should put this on the internet.
Yeah, like once, and then we were just, and then it was never witty ever again. So, what's your opinion on the third party vote?
I was actually thinking a lot about this on my way down, just because I knew we were going to talk about this, and I think I discussed with you earlier this week. I had taken those online quizzes saying who do you stand with, and I got paired with Jill Stein. I think she's a Green Party candidate, and it's bizarre. Obviously bipartisanship is ruling right now between Republicans and Democrats, and there are other third parties, and if you were to ask just about, I don't know, I'd say 95% of people, if you said, oh, I'm going to vote third party, and they're like, why would you do that? That's taking away a vote from so-and-so, or you're not helping the true cause. It's like, if you vote for third party, you're not going to...
So my issue with that statement is taking away from so-and-so. That's the part that doesn't matter. My issue is if you want to shape I think the next 4 years.
Yeah, and you know what? That's where I was thinking on my little when my brain was actually working properly on the drive down here. Is granted, the third parties never do well. More than a couple years ago, I want to say probably somewhere in the 90s, there was a third party candidate that did fairly well. I want to say it might have been Ross Perot. I'm not positive on that.
I don't really follow politics in the back. I basically look at what's in front of me and do a lot of reading around that because it is important to me.
But I had this thought that, anyone that says that, oh, I would vote third party, but that's not going to do anything or it doesn't count, so I'm going to vote for somebody else instead.
It does do things, and it does count. It's just... obvious, there are we use polls because they are clear indications of where things are at, where things stand, and sometimes there are things that upset the balance, but right now it's not those third parties because clearly they just do not have enough attention, enough momentum to win.
But I feel like I know how they can get it though. If all those people that say, for example, I could say, oh, I paired with Jill Stein. I'd vote for her, but I'm going to vote for Hillary because, that's gonna matter more. If and I know that's hypothetical. Okay.
Nah.
What I'm saying is if everybody that said something like that, and I guarantee there's a lot of people out there that have that mentality. What if they all actually did vote for the third party, and then at the end of the day, they end up getting
that's
10%
such hyperbole,
of the whole
though.
vote. I know, it's.
That's like saying, man, what if everybody just recycled, bro?
Pretty much.
What if everybody just went solar power? It's such hyper. I mean, it is definitely a wonderful concept.
It's a way you can probably get steam going, in that direction of actually having a full third party active.
It's the same concept of what if there was a candidate who spent no money on ads and instead took, like great care to document where they were investing that money into the economy, because millions go into ads in these political seasons. It's ridiculous numbers, and like everybody would vote for that candidate, and like it's hyperbole, because it's just like, but
you'll never know.
There's X amount of factors, X amount that is unknown that does actually influence against such action, and I do think, so if we're on the idea of, like, third-party momentum or, eliminating bipartisanship, I do think that there is something within this election cycle that will continue to lend towards eliminate bipartisanship and, like, have a consistent third party within the system.
We can only hope.
I think a lot of that will really come down to how the Republican Party handles this. And Trump might win. But right now, what we are seeing is real data that is showing he's not. Early voting polls, the amount of shit that he's that he's getting called out on, like,
it'd be really funny, after the election and Trump doesn't win, think hypothetically, of course, if Trump doesn't win, like John Kasich just like goes on TV and says, "Told you so," like, because he repeatedly said, like, multiple times during the debates, he's like, "I'm, like, by the polls, the only Republican that can beat Hillary Clinton," and like, that would just be funny because he's not supporting Trump either. Like, he's not endorsing him.
And then the other side of that is if Trump beats Hillary, then Bernie Sanders could speak up. But right now, Trump is losing momentum. Personally, I think that the polls I'm seeing aren't reflecting this as much because of how much early voting seems to be going on. If we're honest here, I've already voted, and I voted for Hillary, and that's just because I don't think the emails thing is as big as the media or the Republican Party wants everybody to believe. Because if there were articles that came out, I believe it was last week or the week before, where her and her campaign were talking about it, and they were just like, "Oh, it'll just blow over by the weekend."
Yeah.
And when you like talk about something so casually like that literally that says to me that you're pretty much now either they spun that and like they never thought that and they spun it, or the other side of it was like they actually thought that and they thought that because there was nothing there. And so to me, like, we live in a world where we have clearly proven that the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot aren't real. We've basically proven this because things like ghosts and shit like that, we've proven that because we basically put cameras in everybody's hands and on every street corner, and like, all these mythos have just like evaporated, and we're living in a more realistic world. And realistically, if she was really doing something fucked up, somebody probably would have spoken up about it. And
I mean, there's all sorts of conspirators out there, and they're gonna like do whatever they can to try to incriminate her in any way possible and make her seem like the worst political candidate.
So here's where I'm gonna tiptoe. So talking about the sexual assault of women is a very difficult topic. It's difficult for a great number of reasons, and everybody should just be really kind of careful and aware of each other's presence, and not force yourself on others, and so again, I'm trying to tiptoe around this, but people drinking and like having a good time and being flirty for the sake of being flirty, this has also become a problem where it's just like, well, no, like X individual, whether they be male or female, technically did not assault X individual because like all this other shit was going on, like the dancing, and we don't know. We don't know. And you know, like, and also 10 years ago, what seems like sexual assault wasn't sexual assault to what it is now. And again, I tiptoe around this shit because why he probably did this, you know, sexually assault some women. Maybe
we don't know, and that's the thing is, and obviously what he says is, you know, it's just words, and they were a very poor choice of words that Trump could have spoken.
But just like the email, like this shit just kind of, it looks worse than it probably is, but that doesn't mean that, you know, these women shouldn't speak up. They probably should have spoken up sooner if this is how they actually felt at the time. And so, like, I wanted to mention that because I just want to get it the fuck out of the way. Because I do think it's a huge problem that he has to deal with and that he's dealing with very poorly.
And, well, the media does spin it to where he is coming out to be the devil, just the way, you know, well, by the say the media, like, I'm going to say, you know, your CNNs and, I mean, just, you know, in general,
ABC, NBC, they all talk about it. The Washington Post, Forbes, they all talk about it. But the trick is, I mean, again, and this is why I'm tiptoeing around it, because it is a very tough topic to talk about. And we do have to be careful about when it comes to sex, how we interact with each other these days.
Just need consent. That it's as simple as that.
Exactly.
Consent.
And yeah, you definitely have to be careful to not force yourself on others.
Right.
And it is so hard to tell because of how much time has passed, you know, with a lot of these women coming out and talking about this. But like the emails, it's so tough to tell. And you just gotta, like, and for me, I'm happy that I'm past it because I have, you know, registered my vote and whatever happens from here. And what I do want to say about all this shit, going back to actually voting, is these fucking off the cuff comments, and a lot of that shit also applies to the emails and the women.
Yeah.
And technically, so.
Thoughts?
Damn it. Yeah, like, so I'm starting to, like, unpack all this. So, first off the cuff comments. Second, Bill Clinton. So, going back to point one, I walked in to vote, and I held the door for a gentleman who, and there was another gentleman in the parking lot who was holding up a Trump sign and, you know, doing a lot of yelling, and so you just did it.
What?
You just did it. That's an off-the-cuff comment. Typical Trump supporter, or simply, of course. That's happening on both sides.
Oh, yeah.
And that is a huge part of the problem, where it's just like, oh, that's a typical Trump support. We're all over the place. People who support Hillary, people who support Trump, we're all over the place. And yes, some of them look like typical Trump and Hillary supporters, but like when this guy said that, you know, like, oh, of course, or typical, you know, it's just like,
I just wish, like, that, like, why be at the ballots? Like, do you really think you're gonna, you know, change someone's opinion right at that minute? Like, just go home. Like, I don't understand that. Like, it's. Well, that pisses me off about
that.
Like,
that is exactly part of the problem I'm trying to bring up here. This comment, this off the cuff comment of "I don't understand." Well, of course you don't fucking understand. If you fucking understood, and I'm saying this to everybody who says that.
When people go like, how can you vote for Trump or how can you vote for Hillary? Is that what you're talking about? Like those comments?
Yeah, that kind of stuff where it's just like, well, yeah, if you understood, you might actually be voting on the other side of this,
right?
Like, and that's that kind of shit that I'm royally sick of, and not just in politics, but in our society of just like, oh, you know, like, I'm looking at this feature in a game and I took 3 seconds to understand it, and now I'm gonna make a snarky comment, shit like that. And
it would just be a beautiful world if, you know, politics all remained private. Like, you know, like the fuck, what are their names? The candidates, there we go. You know, make their points. You know, say what they want to say, and, you know, tell me about your policies and what you want to do. But it's like,
so
when people like try to force their opinion on people, and then they say things like, and I've literally seen this, like on Facebook, people going, if you're a Trump supporter, delete me, or if you're a Hillary supporter, delete me as a friend. It's just like, grow up. Like, just don't fucking post it. Like, keep it to yourself, or like in the privacy of your own home.
The same thing could also be said of the, of course, or typical Trump or typical Hillary comment of just like, grow up. Like we have like, these divides exist because we don't think beyond those simple comments of delete me from, your Twitter, or like if you have a comment on this video about Trump or Hillary, unsubscribe, like that kind of shit needs to go out the window, and we need to actually start taking, and I know you do, it's just, for me, as more of the distant observer, I guess, the person who really does observe a lot more going on as opposed to actually interacting within society, like, that kind of shit of just like instant reactions just needs to stop, and we need to actually think before we speak again. And circling back to this kind of off the cuff, and also linking it with the candidates should say what needs to be said, as opposed to attacking each other and then refuting the attacks, and et cetera, et cetera. I feel like that's also part of this nature of our economy of capitalism, where they're selling themselves as a product, and like that also needs to go. That needs to be removed from the political system, where these people go back to being people and politicians and not business people. Hillary gets attacked for her connections with Wall Street and Bill's connections with Wall Street, and that is bad, because there should be, like, for the longest time, religion was so involved with government.
It still is a little bit, obviously. I mean, the Republican Party, their traditional Christian values, for the most part. I'm not saying every Republican is, but that heavily influences their stances on social and environmental issues. So
to do the Ramble thing, there was I went upstairs. My parents had gone shopping again. I live at home, yes, because I live in pain in both my legs. And there was a pastor on, giving a sermon, and I was just like, man, it surprises, I think, myself as someone who disconnected from religion through college, that, like, it is still so in tune with our society, and yes, our political system, but our political system definitely has a bit more of a divide, and I think, having a war over what our government should be like kind of proved that there should be more of a disconnect between politics and religion, and I think that does circle back to politics and now business.
You just said, like, a war, like, that kind of, like, frightens me, because, like, it's so hostile right now between, candidates and the supporters, and it's just, like...
Not just that, with, like, what's going on with Russia and, like, Iran, like, it's... turning into, like, a weird war of sorts, and it's a little frightening. So, getting back into the actual talk of, like, the candidates and what's going on, with Russia and, with... mostly Russia, but you also have China taking islands or building islands in the South China Sea. You have Iran, who has also started, like Russia, harassing United States ships that are in international waters, and that's scary shit, And then you have basically a Trump-like Russian individual who is basically in their government system already, making comments about, if you don't vote Trump, there will basically be a nuclear war.
Yeah.
Like, that shit is scary. Where are you at on that? Because I've been going for a bit now, releasing my hot air. Because I know I read a lot more on this stuff than you do.
Yeah. It kind of to reiterate what I was saying earlier, and I just wish it was a lot more simple. Now, like, no attack ads, no people, like, trying to force their views on someone else. 'Cause it's like, if I, go to a poll and someone's going to be like, you should vote for this person because of this, this, and this. I'm like, dude, I already got my mind made. Like, this isn't helping you or me right now. it's interesting. I've again been just kind of just overall thinking about this. I'm trying to look at the candidates and basically ask myself which one of these two people best aligned with my views on what I want the government to do socially, economically, environmentally. And it's like, that's it. Like, I'm honestly, obviously Hillary's got trust issues with her email shit, and Trump has, word problems.
I think there is still, or at least for me, there's still a lot of like personality involved, like the way Trump handles himself.
Yeah. That's my brain too, because it's like I feel like his foreign policy would scare the shit out of me, because he could like walk out of a room and be like, "Fuck you for because you're not doing what I want you to do," and then all of a sudden there is a war of some sorts. But I still want to think on the most basic level, like which candidate is going to improve the environment or keep I don't know, like women's health, abortions, and birth control, like who's easier access for that, or that kind of stuff. And it's just like, I feel like just have a simple mindset. I think if people could, sit down and be like, okay, here's what I believe in, I'm going to vote for this candidate. And I think that's all you need. Like, you don't need all this extra bullshit that's thrown at you on the TV from whichever station you watch or whichever publication you read. Like, it's not necessary. You can just peaceably pick your candidate based off of your own personal views.
I think in the sense of how they handle themselves, there is some necessity to that.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree. Obviously Hillary on her stage presence is nearly perfect. She handles herself like
and that's another thing
presidential nominee, and Trump doesn't.
I did want to talk about was coming back to off the cuff comments about like she's robotic. She's not fucking robotic. That's what a person sounds like when they actually prepare
want
a
to run
speech.
for president.
or they want to run for president.
Exactly.
You have responses, because if any regular old person was up there who didn't know how to be prepared for this shit, they'd look just like Trump, and it would be a fucking bag of cats. It'd literally just be like shaking up a bag of cats and then letting them loose. And that is not the kind of stuff that should run government and should try to ensure the peaceful continuation of civilizations on Earth. And
well, it's funny too, talking about like politicians and how they should act and stuff. And a number of people I know that are on the Trump side of things are like, it's nice to not have a politician in there, like someone that's not going to, presumably not lie to you. Which and I can honestly like if there is a presidential candidate that is not a politician that appeased me, then I'd be like, yes, that's fantastic. Someone that is not in politics, but unfortunately, Trump's views and my views don't jive. So despite him not being a politician, I'm not about it. Like if someone like Mark Cuban ran, I'd probably vote for him in a heartbeat.
I get the idea of, like lack of trust towards Hillary. I also kind of look at that, and I do try to like see beyond just like, man, it's sad how little she says about this, but then it's just like, how much can she even say? Like, obviously there are so many people above her on the food chain when it came to Obama's presidency and what happened, what was on her server, what was on the email server, and, like what happened with Benghazi, and like, she says so much as it is, as a politician, and it's just kind of like, it's not like she's not talking about anything else. So, like, there are plenty of industries where there are so many non-disclosure agreements, Apple being one of them. Like, so many people can't say so much about, like, a lot of Apple shit that they have seen, but can't talk about. Maybe even the Apple Car project. And yeah, I don't know. Like, I completely see both sides of this, and for me, still want to touch on. I want to touch on Bill Clinton before I get to how this election will have such a fucking ripple effect moving forward. So. Do you I don't fucking care like what Bill Clinton did or said. That's the thing.
Is Bill Clinton running for president right now?
It almost literally does not relate to Hillary.
The thing that I've heard on one side is that how can Hillary stand by her husband after what he did? I mean, and yes, he did cheat
because
on
there
Hillary.
has never, ever been a presidential couple that has ever had a divorce, ever.
Right. Well, and not only that, but they're both heavily into politics, obviously. If Hillary was not into politics, aside from her standard first lady duties, then maybe after
This
the presidency
lighting is killing me.
they could have split up or something like that. So it's I get that. It's just be faithful, and he wasn't faithful, and she still stood by him. So what else, is she going to, I don't know. I can see that kind of mentality just being that's kind of wrong and weird. But one, Bill Clinton's not running for president right now, and he was in fact impeached for his actions. So
but it did not. Impeachment does not mean forcing out of office. Impeachment
right.
is just the act of being impeached, and he wasn't.
Right.
And yeah,
and kind of just going back to what I was thinking earlier. It's I don't want to really focus on what these people did in the past or what fears they are bringing out with
70-year-old Bill Clinton still sleeping around.
Yeah,
probably not. Not unless he has pills.
Yeah, I just
but it
don't
doesn't.
care.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, right? And one campaign says it does matter, one campaign says it doesn't. And
But from our view, yeah, there's obviously people out there who probably do have more of a side with Trump's campaign.
Mm-hmm. And other people that do, and that is their. You do you if you like his policies and the way he's going to shape the Supreme Court and the way that we handle certain issues, by all means vote for him. That is your.
Get out there and vote.
Just get out there and vote. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's very important. And I think this campaign, as shitty as it has been, whether you look at the candidates that we have to choose between, or just the things that have been said, or the stuff that has been found out about, this will probably have a positive effect on the number of voters who have registered to vote.
I hope so.
And yeah, me too. And
it'd be nice if all these these new voters, let's say, these kids, 18 years old, just seeing all this shit, and they're what the fuck is going on here? And then they all vote third party. Then yay, revolution.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to work. That's not going to happen. But it's a pipe dream.
So we're starting to get into the ripples I wanted to talk about, and how that will kind of affect things moving forward. And for me, realistically, instead of just oh yeah, and then they just kind of turned the next page and there was suddenly a third party, the Green Party was just suddenly cool. No, that's it. Things working as they are, for me, I at least see more positivity in this result because I think the Republican Party, hopefully, takes a good hard look in the mirror. Because they had an outside candidate who beat the shit out of all of their candidates.
Yeah.
And then, to me, as somebody who voted for Hillary, lost. And then maybe they split ultra-conservative and then moderately conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And there is where you find your three parties, stop the bipartisanship.
Well, we've kind of seen that too, because after Trump's last comments about possibly sexually assaulting a woman, the number of Republicans that are he's cutting ties with them, or that
they're
unendorsed
cutting ties with him,
which
that's or there are those who are standing up and saying, "No, you gotta stand by him." Blah blah.
Yeah. God, and that's dumb too. Unendorsed. It's like okay, after all this time that you finally are oh, maybe I don't endorse him anymore. Come on, dude. And yes, I mean, I kind of got John Oliver was talking about that.
There did seem to be this unison where, they, okay, he's the candidate. Let's come together and try and at least mold him and
for the party.
For the party.
That's basically what it's all about.
Which
it shouldn't be that way anymore. It's got to quit.
Yeah, it's got to be more for the good of the nation,
people, yes,
and exactly. The good of the world, because we are becoming a very global world, which is
Don't bring it up about that whole Brexit thing.
Well, yeah, that's so. Okay, so there's a few things I want to mention as we kind of wrap up here. Mm-hmm. Take a moment to actually think instead of these fucking off the cuff comments to everyone, not just my friend, not just me, everyone. Like that. As I say, we have a conversation between us, mm-hmm. but that's definitely one of those points where it's just like, guys, like take more than a fucking second before making a comment. Like, think about things on, like, it's not even a deep level. Like, it's just below the surface.
You just gotta like
oh shit, there's fish beneath the ocean. Who knew? And like, yeah, just and the other side of it is don't be passive. Things look well, obviously things don't look that good because black people are being shot, and then cops are being shot, and it looks like cops are just attacking a lot of people now, and don't be passive either way, whether it looks good or it looks bad, whether it looks like Trump is going to lose or it looks like Hillary is going to lose. Don't be passive, because there's one thing the internet should have fucking taught us by now, is that anonymity shows what people really are. Mm-hmm. And on the internet, people attack others without thinking that there's a person that they're attacking. They are racist. They attack people who are fat, and they attack, they belittle women still, and these things still exist. And voting allows people to maintain that anonymity.
Yeah. But
so,
also don't be passive, but also don't be too aggressive, man. Like that's the most annoying thing in my mind, is just like people that are
but
like,
don't
aggressively...
don't be polarizing either, where it's just like, okay, I'm not passive, I'm going to be aggressive. It's just like but again, the don't do the shit that's on the surface, the passive and the aggressive. Find what's beneath. Find out why your friend on Facebook wants to vote for Trump. Understand what their perspective is, instead of just being aggravated about it.
Yeah, I agree.
And then by talking to them, you might be armed with the tools to say, but did you think about this, a knowledge that they may be lacking, or vice versa, where maybe I lacked something that I didn't know about Hillary.
I think besides being too aggressive, and people trying to force their views on someone else, which I guess we call that oppression. It's the idea that people can't explain themselves in their views without saying something negative about the opposition. It's just like, why am I voting for Trump? Well, because Hillary sucks. Like, no, that's not an argument at all.
For me, that's a lot of why I just had an issue with Trump, because he couldn't talk about his own positives and what he wanted to do for the nation without attacking Bill Clinton or attacking Hillary. He's always been on the attack. He's always been on what's on the surface, the aggression. And
they've both done that a little bit, though, where it's just you're watching the debates, and they're like, what are you going to do about Plan X? And they're like, well, here's what my opponent's going to do about Plan X for the next 5 minutes. And then
that can be said about elections 4 years ago, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And it has... And so we like we like to say it's getting worse, but the thing is, we actually don't know that, because there has never been such a level of communication where people are on video in front of you, and videos are uploaded the same day, the same week. Like, communication
seconds later.
Communications has made things so different that it might actually have been this way for
I want to go back
ever.
To the 1600s, and watch those debates and see what did they even have debates? It's like, when was the first presidential debate?
I go back to the size of issues, and it's just did people get dramatic about a guy who accidentally killed a horse?
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
was privacy of an issue?
He hath killed thy mane.
Oh my god!
Like,
Yeah, I'm curious about that. Like back in the day, like what did they fight about? What were they so pissed off about? Like, because they're obviously our candidates are all pissed at each other right now. It's like back in the 1600s, like were they like?
Is
exactly,
it a human condition? We obviously can sit down here and talk analytically about this, so we have to also assume that such things have persisted with us for a long time, that we can look at this and say, like, this is too dramatic. And it's just that this dramatization and this entertainment media has proliferated too much within politics and business and fucking
the American
everything.
People love drama, clearly, and they love like the drama of like reality shows. And that's what this is turning into. And it shouldn't
just be said about Americans. Obviously, like globally, like entertainment is, consumed with. I want to say aver, but I don't know if that's the proper word.
I don't know what the fuck that means.
Yeah, learn about your words. Consumed with a voracious appetite. And
somebody slept well last night.
All the recordings have been really like getting the words that are inside me outside of me. It's like a word explosion. Just
nice. Just
anyway,
vomiting good words. Good job.
So I really hope, for the sake of America, and honestly for the sake of the Earth, that we learn from this, Americans learn from this election and improve from this election, and that globally we learn from it too. Because, and I'm not talking about like America runs the world, I'm talking about just like how important it is to be aware of what goes on around the world, and how things like Brexit affect the U.S., and how the U.S. election affects things like relations with South Korea.
Yeah.
These things are important. We are no longer these closed-off societies, and Brexit shows the consequences of that. The consequences of thinking
there is a world economy.
Yeah, that things are more important than just Britain.
Right.
And maybe Britain could leave the European Union 10 years from now if Brexit had failed, but because Brexit failed, they did it right. And it didn't, cause some markets to crash for like a couple weeks. That's important.
Yeah. Trillions
of dollars lost. Like, Ohio is apparently one of the biggest export locations to Britain in the entire U.S. Yes.
What were you exporting?
Yeah, my dad told me about that. He knew a lot about this. I'd love to actually get him on camera, but he wouldn't want to. But to talk to him about it. But like, you can look it up. Like, shit's on Google. Like, that's the other thing. Like, facts, data. These things are important, and having more than just like what you believe, knowing what actually goes on in the world is important. And again, I do try to just have conversations on here, but sometimes there does need to be like that. Hey, like,
do this. Do that.
I'm very cool with your beliefs, but like, I just want you to think about this or this sometimes. And that is the conclusion of what I at least want to say on here. So,
I mean, what sucks about trying to do your research is it's hard to find just raw data, like that's not from a source that's going to put some sort of spin on it, whether it's left spin or right spin. So it's just, you could find something that says like Hillary Clinton did this. Is that a fact or not? And you can fact check on someone's website, but who knows?
But happily, we've also talked about how few things are objective on this show, and it is important to keep that in mind, that there are very few objective things in this world, and to always know that because people run things, because they run polls, because they run elections, there is subjectivity,
right,
in all of it. So,
yeah, I'm nervous about this, man. I'm not gonna lie. Regardless of the outcome, whether it's Trump or Hillary, like, I'm not looking forward to what's going to happen immediately after the election.
I am scared about things that go on in the world as of late. I haven't been most of my life, And that's not because I was ignorant, but because
you're just
well, no, I have more of a grasp on what's like these interactions that actually go on in between.
I think just us. Usually it's what happens when you get older, though. It's like when we've talked about this before, maturing and your maturity level in between high school, college, and post-college life. And we were in college, you're like, yeah, party, everything's about me, and then you grow up.
Yeah, but if I had heard that like Russian warplanes are like literally like flying within striking distance of U.S. warships, I'd be like, fuck. Because that shit is scary, and the way Putin is acting is scary, and again, we shouldn't just be passive. We shouldn't just read it and be like, it's gonna be fine. No, that shit is worth being scared about, because there has never been a war between two official nuclear powers, and we should not want to see that.
Yeah, no, that'd be bad. Hopefully Elon Musk can get us to Mars soon.
Yeah, God.
Well, apparently,
a planet run by scientists. That sounds kind of nice. Yeah.
Apparently,
on paper and off the cuff, at least. Huh?
So apparently, Boeing wants to beat Elon Musk to that task.
Competition for that is going to be good, because it's going to push that industry, and that industry needs some like hard technological pushes, because
Agreed.
Like right now one of the issues they face is like, okay, so we're starting to get the technology to get the technology there to Mars. We have the technology to get the technology there, but now the issue is we're really starting to talk about, because this issue has existed for a long time, we've known about, but like gravity and protecting the astronauts from radiation from the sun, because the Earth does that, and Earth missions and lunar missions have protected astronauts that have gone that far, but there won't be any protection out there in the dead space, and so we have to find ways to mitigate that too. Maybe we should talk about that next week on Great Scott Marcus. Yeah. I'm Scott, and that one's Mark, and this has been the 19th episode of Great Scott Marcus. Thanks for watching. I don't do that whole like, subscribe bit, so if you want to do it, do it. Thanks.
Good. And as always, do good things.